Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham. Thursday night, 9 o'clock, time to talk some rugby betting, and it's a really strange rugby weekend ahead. We've had fixtures change due to COVID, and the Lions II has certainly got off to a bit of a rocky start from a COVID perspective at any rate. Well, let me get straight into introduce you to the two guests. You're going to take us through the rugby fixtures. We'll talk a bit of Currie Cup. We'll talk Lions II. I don't think have any betting on the Sharks-Lions game, which has now replaced the Bulls-Lions game, but we'll certainly talk about where we think the handicap may set up. And we'll also have a look at some of the internationals taking place this weekend. So let me start to my right. Mike joining us. Mike, I know you were up late last night watching the Euro. You have a couple of beers there?
Yeah, more than a couple, and the tequilas came out as well.
Excellent. So you're feeling a bit under the weather. I think I did notice you drinking a bit of water there, but look forward to your views on this one. And then down below, it's Oraclepedia, otherwise known as Oracle Rugby. Gav, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. I've got to say, I'm always surprised that you invite me back. I mean, yeah, I got a couple right last week, but by and large, I did not get them right. And also, talking about the Euros, Mike, I don't think you were the only one who was up late last night, but I did forward on something. I know people say you shouldn't forward on stuff you get on WhatsApp, but anyway, I forwarded on that little meme or post or whatever it was called, where it said, they asked the English public what they would vote for, and it was 86% it's coming home. And as we saw Casper Schmeichel suggesting it was never home in the first place, but it doesn't matter. The other 14% had voted for Maddie, the little girl that got taken out in Portugal all those years ago. In fact, she'd be 18 today, I think. My son's 18, and my wife had a bit of an argument with me today and told me it was in bad taste. So, yeah. And as much as we shouldn't forward stuff on, we always get into trouble with somebody. But I did find it quite funny. So 86%, if that was true, of the English people think it should come home. And Casper Schmeichel's 100% right. It was never home in the first place. I was living and working in London in 1996. I have a £2 coin with a Euro logo on it that was obviously issued at the time. I remember getting into trouble with the police at the tube station one night because there were so many crowds around the Wembley Stadium that particular night. I wasn't involved in watching soccer at the time, didn't really care about it. I don't think it's coming home. I agree with Mr. Schmeichel.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm leaning towards the Italians there myself, but I've also enjoyed this whole coming home thing and wondering what they're on about. And also interesting to hear that you and your wife had an argument. I'm very surprised to hear about that. I can imagine you're a very easy guy to live with. Anyways, gents, let's get into things. Welcome to the boys who are watching live there. Seen Bo just making the point that I've got quite a hairstyle there. Yeah, unfortunately, the lockdown hair is back for me. I haven't had a haircut for a while, so I think it's probably about time. How's it to Stephen Marks there? But boys, let's get into the action. I'm going to start off with the Currie Cup. The Cheetahs against the Pumas. And Mark, I'll start with you. I haven't put betting up here. And the reason I haven't done it is there's been a tremendous amount of movement to the betting on this game. A couple of days ago, it was plus 3.5, the Pumas. And I know a lot of guys, myself included, have fancied the Pumas. We've been waiting for the team sheets. And the money has started coming for the Pumas. Just before the show, I know you could get 27-20 on the Good for the Game preview with Bet Exchange. But other guys have now started shifting the Pumas into favourites. So I haven't put a handicap there, but you can share your views on this one. Are the Pumas good things?
I think so, hey? There's quite an interesting form line developing with Currie Cup. We were chatting about it the other day. And I mean, if you look at that Puma side, what they've done, and I said it, people were surprised about that Province Griquas result last night. I said it the other day, those two teams, the Pumas and the Griquas, they have absolute consistency. It's the same bunch of guys that are together throughout. Okay, yes, one or two left to do a bit of duty for Rainbow Cup. But that's only strengthening there because there's no rugby games going on for the Pumas and the Griquas at that time. And I fancy the Pumas to win here and potentially by quite comfortably. I am leaning towards the minus for sure. However, I'm also waiting for a total points line because I think they're both just going to throw the ball around. We know the Cheetahs will do that, and I think the Pumas will do the same. They'll look to play fast rugby. And, yeah, I like that Pumas forward pack solid, eh? And they've got a couple of exciting players in the back line. So two bets there probably for me will be the total overs line, which I'm hoping is going to land around, say, 55, 56, anything over that will have my money. And then... yeah, on the minor, well, I've just actually pulled up World Sports Betting here. and at 9 to 10, you can get the Pumas at 9 to 10 at +1.5, which I would take, and I'd suggest others do the same, because it could, end up being a tight game, and those extra points always save you. The 1 or 2% you're getting extra is not always worth it. So yeah, that's my take.
Right. Well, just to, as I say, welcome all the guys in the live chat. Lawando, you're saying they're Pumas 1 to 12. I think based on what Mark's saying there, be very careful about the Pumas 1 to 12. And I've spoken to a few other punters as well. The thinking is that if the Pumas get it right, they could absolutely hammer the Cheetahs. Remember, the Cheetahs lost, I think, 31-10 to Griquas in their first game. And they obviously are not the Cheetahs we know, the Cheetahs of old. Welcome also to Guy Stone in the program there. Let's get Gavin Cohen's opinion on this one. Gav, you can't tell me they got the wrong favourite, because at this stage, we're not really sure who the favourite is with the bookies, but it looks like we can assume the Pumas will start favourites. Sorry, Gav, I muted you. Sorry, there was some Sorry, Gav, I muted you. If you could start again, there was some background noise.
I think you're muting me by default, Brent, so I assume I'm always muted. So I was actually saying hello to Stoneman, but I realised I was doing it on YouTube, and he's obviously on Facebook. So hello, Stoneman. I'm really sorry, but I did see those pictures of the beers, and I'm assuming I'm going to get an invite in the mail quite soon. Yeah. So back to the game. So I saw the banter on the group this week, Brent. I've not focused too much on it myself. I actually missed the game yesterday, partly because it was a 3:45, which I know that there's reasons why they did that, but I still think it's ridiculous. I don't know why you would start a rugby game, outside of the holidays. I know it's holidays, but it's still outside of the holidays at 3:45 on a Wednesday. I mean, do me a favor, who's watching that? That's crazy. The Carling Black Label, or SAB for that matter, should be really, really irritated that they're spending sponsorship on this and games are not being shown when people are watching them. I don't know. That's my dig. I've had a go at Supersport before. I'll have a go at the people that organised this one. Anyway, yeah, I think the right money is the Pumas. I'm not going to go and smash into it. I'm not telling you not to do it. It's only because I haven't put a lot of homework into it. Probably have a small bet tomorrow. Tomorrow on the Pumas. And I think that, Jimmy Stonehouse, although he looks aged, he's definitely started this Currie Cup well. The Griquas have done well as well. It's just, my mate Sean Watson, I know he lives in New Zealand at the moment. I knew him for a few years before he left South Africa years ago. And he used to back the Griquas every single Currie Cup at 80-1 and 100-1 and 150. And I used to almost chuckle, not laugh at him, but used to chuckle and think, one day they'll win the Currie Cup. And I know I was born in 1971, and I don't think I think the Griquas won in 1970. So, look, this is the kind of year that one of these two teams can win this tournament. It's an absolute shambles. COVID, matches being thrown about all over the place. Everyone concentrating on the Lions. This is the year that a Pumas or a Griquas can win this Currie Cup. There's they've got more. They've got more to gain and very little to lose by having a proper go at this game. So the money's right for me. I don't think they've got the wrong favourite. Cheetahs have done absolutely nothing. I think the right money is the Pumas here. I just wouldn't be putting my house on it because I haven't done the research. That's all.
And Mark, just to go back to you on the Pumas there as well. My worry with the Pumas is, and I saw it last week against the Griquas, they're almost better underdogs. In other words, last week I felt against the Griquas, they actually got nervous when it came to closing the game out. And they won by 4 points in the end. And I was on the minus. I think I was on -8.5, -9.5. But disappointing that. But they are that sort of side. Now, they're going to this game, irrespective of whether they start favourites or not. They're going down there thinking they're underdogs, which I like with the Pumas. Because then they throw the ball around and they give it everything. Last week, I felt they almost froze against the Griquas. What did you think? I was disappointed with them.
100%. It almost becomes a cagey affair with the Pumas and the Griquas. It's almost like an unspoken derby because they're both Doldrum brothers.
Victories are few and far between,
Yeah, so like that match usually is very important to them. But with this diluted Currie Cup, it's kind of changed the dynamic. And like I say, that form line that's developing is going to be, if you look at the Pumas results and where the Griquas results are, it just shows you how diluted the Sharks, Province, and the Lions teams are looking at the moment the Bulls to some extent as well. Because I mean, right now, those teams wouldn't have a shot in hell if you looked at the Currie Cup 6, 7, 8 years ago. And now you look at it now, and it's a pity. I think, Gav, just to your point as well, I thought they were smart doing a midweek game, because I mean, if you look at Varsity Cup viewership, it's nice on a Monday. There's not much to watch, so it's quite lekker to go and have watch Varsity Cup and potentially have a beer to get yourself out of the weekend. But I think you're right with the timing. They should have definitely played the game later for sure.
Yeah, I'm okay with a Wednesday rugby, Gunchy, seriously, but 15:45. I mean, that's 3:45 p.m. I mean, are you joking? Oaks haven't even come back from their, after lunch smoke break, and that game started. It was so early. It was crazy. In fact, I was at the Currie Cup final in 2015 in Joburg. I was talking to Sean Nicholas the other day. It was 1:30 because South Africa were playing New Zealand in the semi-final of that tournament. And, why don't play the game on Friday night? Play it on Sunday afternoon. What are you trying to do playing it at lunchtime on a Saturday? Lunchtime on a Saturday is the same as playing at 3:30, 4:45 on a Wednesday. I just think it's crazy. Sorry, I just want to go back to one more thing. So you made a very interesting comment, Brent, about being the underdog. And, everyone, even my kid asked me, do these guys know their price? And I'm of the opinion that every single person in every team, whether it's an individual sport like tennis or golf, rugby, soccer, they know their price. And if they don't, their family knows the price. Their brother knows the price. Their best friend, girlfriend, somebody knows the price and gets it to them. It's a very important case. So when you get to Bloemfontein and you go, hang on a second, everyone's expecting us to win this game. For the Pumas and the Griquas, for that matter, I know they're not playing in this fixture, but the same thing applies. They don't want to be the favourites. They're not used to being the favourites. They're used to being, if we win, people will cheer us home and say, well done. And if we lose, they're going to go, hang on a second, you should have won that game. So it's quite massive for a small team to be expected to be favourites. So how much that does to them, I don't know. But I still think they'll win. I'm just not going massive on it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment that Gav about the favourites. It reminds me a little bit about losing weight. You lose weight and everyone's compliments you and it feels great. And then the compliments stop because you now establish your weight. So you almost want to, I think subconsciously you want to put on weight again so you could lose it. And it's almost like some sort of funny thing goes through their head. I'm not convinced that they know the prices though, because I've heard some of the commentators often talk about the side being a favourite and they're like 18-point underdogs with the bookies and that. So I think maybe we're overestimating these guys a little bit. But,
I wish some of them knew the prices and the spreads, man. Cost me some time.
That's it. There's Kurt Lem coming on and he says Harvey's is in isolation for the Cheetahs. Now, just to mention, if you follow @Kurt Lem on Twitter, he's a big cycling fan, comes up with some great Tour de France tips. So if you are a Tour de France fan, look out for him there. And we'll get into the Lions games. Someone else coming in and just saying the early afternoon games interfere with Oracle getting to the early bird dinner specials. I like that one. So, yeah, anyway, but we're going to move on to the Lions game. Now, Lions Sharks, Gav, I'm going to start with you here. The handicap was sort of 23.5. It moved out to 27.5 the other day. The Lions were well back. They won convincingly. They were meant to play the Bulls. The Bulls game has now been put off because of COVID. The Sharks have said, hey, we'll play you again. I think it was Brendan Vessel saying today, like, what the hell were they thinking? We'll take a punt. But here we go. So, someone on the live chat can tell us if there's any betting yet. But I haven't seen any. But how would you be pricing up? Let's say Gavin Cohen, the bookmaker. How would you be pricing up this game?
There's definitely betting on that. So if you go to OddsChecker is quite a nice site for overseas betting. Let me tell you, if anybody in England is involved in a game, there's a price. Don't worry about that. There's Matchbook, there's Betfair. They've all got a price. So yes, the South African bookmakers might not have one. They're suggesting 40, which is not out of the realm of possibility. It was 54.7 if I remember correctly, and there were a couple that could have gone the other way. Could have been a 14-point swing. Would have been 14. 47, 30 something. I'm going to say that Mark phoned me actually, Mr. Gunchy on the show the day before and told me that this minus was way too low and he's going to make money on it. And I said to him, well, we'll see how we go. And And he called me back the next day. He didn't call me back. So he's obviously piled on. He's collected. I see a smile on his face there. I actually went the other way. I took plus 27.5 Sharks. I didn't have a big bet. I did get on the plus. I thought it was a little bit of value. I know they won 39-3 the last time they were here, and they did smash the Lions the other day. But at the same time, we can chase minuses all day, and at some point they're going to be too high and they're not going to win. So what they've done here, and this just mathematically, simple speak, they have moved this handicap 2 tries plus, and it'll probably open up at 40, 41, 42. It's 2 more tries, and you look back at that game the other night, the Sharks have learned something. The Lions are probably going to change 1 or 2 positions. Sharks are going to say, hang on a second, we're not going to be done by 47 points. We're going to make it lower than this. And that 2-try little banter, and I'm going to say that any handicap over 38.5 here is a little bit of value for the plus. I would only suggest taking a minus if it was in the low 30s, 28, 29, 30. I don't think we're going to see it. So for me, this is plus or no bet. But honestly, you're giving them another 2 tries. They've learned something. They're not morons. They've learned something from this. But I'm going to go back to the conductor. I think the conductor is 100% right here. What the hell are you playing the same team twice for? Yes, we can laugh about it this week. But in 24 years' time or 36 years' time, if I'm still alive, we're going to say, what the hell were they doing? Yes, it was COVID. Rather put it, there's Eagles, there's Border. I remember the tours when they came before, they said make a country districts team and put all these first division players and give them a game, mate. Play Namibia, man. Do me a favor. What are you playing the Sharks twice for? It's silly.
Anyway, I hear you. In years to come, it'll probably be on one of your trivia shows. What was the score when the Lions and the Sharks played? It's going to be a hell of a confusing with 2 results. But Mike, just before we move off this and just discuss the series betting, Gav talks about the Lions making a couple of changes in that. The first thing that springs to my mind is the Sharks have taken a pounding in midweek. You have to think they put out their strongest side that they could put out, obviously without their Boks, which they're not going to get back. So I guess the best they can do is put out a similar side. Now the Lions, they only had one backline player on the bench, but I'm not too sure how heavily they're affected. But in theory, the Lions could put an almost fresh side out there to face the Sharks. To me, the Sharks are going to be there for the taking, absolute for the pounding. But in saying that, 40 points, I don't like taking minus 40 points in any game really.
Sure.
Except last week's
I should have, just going back to the last 2 Lions fixtures, obviously against the Lions on, I think it was Saturday, and then the Sharks yesterday, I absolutely piled in everything I could for the last 2 games because I was I was completely certain that the result was going to be a minus. It was one of those bets where I knew it. I wasn't nervous at all, and I didn't even have to watch the game. I knew what the result was going to be, and I think the bookies have been far too reactive here on the last game. So I agree with you. I think the plus is a bit too high. I think the Lions will look at this based on the level that the Sharks and the Golden Lions have shown them over the last 2 weeks. They'll play a couple of their fringe players. I haven't seen the lineup, so I could be talking out of turn here, but I think they'll play a couple of fringe players, guys that are knocking on the door to be in that match day 23 squad for the first test, because they're looking at it going, fuck, if we're under pressure, we can bring a few big guns off the bench potentially, but if not, it's an opportunity to give the squad a run. I think the Sharks thought they played their strongest team, but I don't think it was. I think there were a couple of changes they should have made. I think Kieran van Vuuren should have been at 2. He should have been starting 2. I thought Fez and Butts has been poor with his line-out throwing and his scrummaging. I think they've got to make a few changes to the front row. And, to me, if I'm the Sharks, they've got a massive squad there in Joburg currently. There's about, I think they've taken 32 or 35 players. Because what they've said is they don't want people at home with an opportunity to go out and, you know what people are like. They're naturally going to want to socialise. So they've taken the whole team. And I think if someone like Butcher Chamberlain starts at 10, I think they need a fresh face there at 10. Bosch is going backwards. Then the Sharks could put a lot more respect on that scoreline, as opposed to that result last night. So I'm definitely for the plus here, I would say. But I'm also going to have a look at the overs line here. I think the overs line is going to be good, and particularly the overs lines on the Sharks.
Yes.
So
because that cost me that I gave 75% of my tries bet back on the Blue and Sharks overs, and that was at 14.5.
Yes.
I think it could be. You're probably going to get a quote of about 11.5.
Yeah, so I mean, we discussed it before the show started, Brent, and I looked at 14.5, and I just thought with the way the Lions are playing at the moment and the team that the Sharks fielded, I stayed away from that. But I think this time round they will make some changes, and I think they've got to score, the Sharks, in my opinion. They've got to score at least 2 tries and maybe a peanut or 2. So that's kind of where I'm looking at the overs line. But that Lions team is hot. The continuity they're playing with at the moment, they're so structured. And I mean, I know the Sharks butchered 1 or 2, but so did the Lions. There are 1 or 2 where so yeah. But I'm still If you gun to my head, it's the plus. But I'm going to look at that overs line very strongly.
Okay, well, let's move on now to the bit of the series betting, Gavin. I just took this. I happened to today. It's quite cold here in the evening, and I put this top on, and I see, it's the GG Gaming one that I got from Gary. So I went onto their site to have a look at the series betting. 12-10 the Boks, the draw at 20-1, and the Lions at 15-20. I know depending where you go, you can get, I think, biggest price 8-10 the Lions at BetX, I think. But Gav, I mean, what do you think series-wise? Yeah, a lot of guys say now, listen, the preparation for the Boks has been terrible, and although the Lions haven't played against much, we have to say, the intensity and the rugby brain almost of the Lions has been so impressive that guys are calling a victory. Are you in that camp, or do you think it's going to be a different story when they get 23 Springboks on the field?
Yeah, Brent, you would have seen a couple of guys. In fact, the one on the WhatsApp group, Brad, he left and he asked for a bet and left. I offered the guys at the time, I think it was 8-10 Lions, and they got if it was a draw, they got their money back. I don't know what it was. I wasn't looking for massive money, but I was trying to show that I was happy to lay a bet. But, in this case, I honestly think, I don't know what you're doing, taking 7-10, or in this case, 7.5-10. I think it's crazy. I think it's too short. It's an unknown. You're playing against the world champions. Yes, they haven't played much, but I don't know if that makes much difference. I mean, geez, the Oaks showed up against Georgia, and there were 19 players I didn't even recognize, and there were only 15 on the field. I don't know. I'm not like Mike and you that know all of these guys. They just look, we don't know. We watch Currie Cup and the Super Rugby, whatever it's called. I don't even know why we call it Super Rugby, but Pro 14 or whatever it is, the local games. Excuse me, half of the Springboks aren't even in South Africa. That rule got scrapped a long time ago. We got a lot playing overseas. They have been playing rugby. It's just a case of getting things together. I know that they're telling us that this Ninaber is in charge. Russie's still on the roof. I'll never forget Russie on the roof in Bloemfontein in 2005. Ike's on the roof. He's calling the shots. As long as Russie's in charge, he did it for the World Cup. It's going to be a very difficult fight for this British and Irish Lions to win this tour. And yes, if they move all those games to Cape Town, and I'll tell you, I know a lot of guys are asking why they didn't do that in the first place, because we don't want to lose. We move the games to Cape Town, it evens the playing field. We have a couple of games in Joburg, 1 game in Cape Town. We've got a better than even chance. And I just think that 12-10 about the Boks is value. And I honestly wouldn't be climbing into 7-10 about the Lions. Really, I wouldn't. I actually saw, I don't know where you got this betting from, but I did see Bet Exchange the other day at even money the pair. And
they did, but that's shortened now. They're 8-10 now, 8-10 on the Lions.
Okay, so they obviously took a position early on and said, you know what, if you want to back the Lions, bring the money to us. And I was a cowboy bookmaker at my day in Marshalls. I used to push out a price. I remember things like the Pirates and Chiefs game. The draw had happened 8 out of 10 times. I was offering 8-10 the draw, 33-10 about each team. Bring your money, we'll take it. And the 1-1s and the 0-0s just arrived like military position. And Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe at election, they just kept arriving, and we just took all the money. So Bet Exchange, maybe it was very clever of them. Probably took a lot of money early on, and guys are sitting with positions. Yes, they got a nice price, but doesn't mean it's going to win. Yeah, for me, the Boks are the value, and in fact, if you're going to back the Boks, I would even wait a little bit. You probably get 14-10, 15-10. Wait for another. They'll beat the Sharks by 38.5 or 39 or whatever it is. They'll beat whoever they're playing next. Probably beat the South African A team by 20 points, and they'll come to the Test match. They'll be gung ho. They'll think they'll win, and it won't be so easy. I don't know. I think there's value in South Africa. We're at home. If you ask anyone, I know that they smashed that Australian team the last time round, but New Zealand and South Africa should be favourites at home against the Lions. I don't care what anyone says. Australia, maybe not so, but definitely South Africa and New Zealand. I think this is a crazy price that they got the wrong favourite. There you go. Took me a while, but they got the wrong favourite.
Took him a while. I've got to say, I think they got the right favourite, Mike. And personally, I'm regretting not getting on the even money there, because at the time I thought it was quite a good bet. From what I've seen of this Lions side, I do think, and I don't think they're going to thrash us by any means. I think we're going to have a hell of a competitive test, but I just feel their intensity, their preparation, everything's been a little bit better than the Boks. Some of our players, in my opinion, might be, maybe not as sharp as they were in the World Cup. We seem to be struggling a bit at lock. What do you think? Are you involved in the series yet? The other angle being maybe you don't get involved in the series because you don't even know if there will be a series the way things are going.
It's also true. No point in locking up money while you got to wait for COVID to make the decision. But my take is on this. I think Gav's spot on there. I think the odds are outrageous for the Springboks. And I want to ask you a question. If the Springboks played that Sharks team, what's the scoreline? And I
that
promise
Sharks
you,
team,
the answer is similar or worse than what the Lions did to them. So, the one thing I can say for the Northern Hemisphere sides is they're current. They've had regular rugby against strong competition. We've got 365 players or so in Europe currently. And if you look at the Premiership, the final was played between Exeter and Harlequins. They're littered with South African players. Okay, and Cell Sharks were in the semis, and Bristol in the other semis. All got South African players, plenty of them. So if you look at it, yes, they've been more current in the Northern Hemisphere, but put your faith in Rassie, put your house in Rassie, because he will deliver. And I promise you, that Springbok side, I watched their attitude and their body language on that field against Georgia, and you can just see it means something now to play for the jersey. I'm not going to get emotional about it, but if you look at how notoriously our good sides, where Rassie's in the change room saying, "Excuse my language, I want you to fuck them up physically," and what they did to that Georgian side, I'm telling you that Bok 12-10 is good, and I'm going to probably wait a bit because, like Gav said, they're gonna get one or two more buns, and then the price will shift. It'll lengthen, and then I'll jump on. So I'm very much in the Bok camp here. I was for the past year and a half. I think yes, we've gone 20 months without a Springbok game, but it doesn't change what we achieved.
Right, well, I've never seen Gavin nodding so much as he did while you were speaking there. His head almost looked like it was rattling at one point there. Gav, very much in agreement. So we're a bit split there. Interesting. Yeah, now, I've actually been eyeing the Lions out for quite a long time. But then again, remember, people, I was on England in the World Cup, so take that from where it comes. I've always felt that, and I've made this prediction a couple of years ago. I said that it won't be long before the Northern Hemisphere dominate because of the strength of their leagues and that. Because, like you say, they've got the South Africans there and that. But at the same time, that's making the Northern, the English guys, the Scottish guys and that stronger. But anyway, we won't harp on the series too much more because we've got a bit of time till we get to the first test. Yes, go for it.
If I could chime in, there was one thing I wanted to say as well, just going back to the Lions Sharks game. Look for value on any time try scorer. Josh Adams cannot stop scoring tries. If you go look at the last 4 games, it's outrageous. So look for some value there on Josh Adams if he's playing, or one of the line, or both of the Lions wingers, because with the continuity they're playing with and the fluidity, they're keeping the ball alive and they look to get it wide. Especially if a guy like Finn Russell's playing, who's very positive on attack. I think the wingers will get a bit of meat.
Yeah, that's true. Those try scores, and I think there were a couple of guys on him to be top try scorer in the series. And what's he got? 7, and is it 7 or 8 now in 2 games? It's ridiculous.
He had 4. He had 4, I think, against the Lions, if I remember correctly. Yeah. 4, I think. It was 4 against the Lions, and then how many lost now? It's a lost count.
3, I think. I know he got a hat-trick.
Yeah, so Brent, going back to what Goonsey just said now, I think the bookmakers also miss out a trick, and they give us things like anytime try scorer and first time try scorer and last time try scorer, which I know that Catch Critics are a big fan of. But what they should be doing is head-to-heads. So he's just called out Josh Adams now, and then you got that South African oak that they clearly pointed out. They made sure we knew last night that he went to school in Otonikwa and George, and that he also scored a couple of tries. And it would be nice to have a head-to-head between two players in a team as well, or one player in one team versus another in another team. So, Brent, I was very innovative and inventive when it came to coming up with markets. You had a lot of bets on the markets that I set up as well, where I've worked before. I think I challenge all bookmakers out there to come up with some exciting stuff that you've got to sit down and actually study and come up with. Don't go and copy everybody else. Seriously. I mean, Brent, you remember that? We'll go back to, it was a Lion series actually that I had that bet called All Kicks to Count.
I remember it. The
Australian,
very well.
I remember the 2013, the Australians played the British and Irish Lions. Australians would have won the series if all kicks had gone over. And it's as simple as that. That's what it was. So come up with something that gives the punters a bit of a go as well, that you don't have to feel like you're going to, copy everybody else. And I think that's where bookmaking's gone, is that everyone's just copying everyone else, and it's getting a bit boring now, and actually getting limited and all sorts of rubbish. It's just be innovative and you'll get the punters. I don't know. And sorry, one more thing. Gunchy was 100% right, and my kid pointed it out. He said the Currie Cup's on. I went on the TV and it was the English rugby final, and he said that there were like 10 or 12 South Africans on the field. It was an absolute joke. It looked like the Currie Cup final. So yeah, we don't know how strong South Africa will be, but that price, we shouldn't be the underdog at home in this tour.
Mark, anything else from you before we move on?
No, that's all I've got to add there. I think we've covered that one.
Just enjoying Steve Reed's comments here. He says that's probably why you no longer work for that bookie Oracle after those markets. I enjoyed that one, Steve. Yeah, excellent. I mean, Oracle, I won't go off on the story now. You can watch Oracle's video. I did an interview with him a long time ago on YouTube, but ask him about Jim Furyk at 16-1 when all the other bookies were 6-1.
Exactly.
That's good for the game on the map.
Instinctive.
Excellent. You no doubt you always have a firm opinion there. Let's move on to the next game, Mark, and I'll go with you here. Now, New Zealand, who put on the old 100 against Tonga last week. The boys, I think it was Ballaholic. I think he's one of our New Zealand good for the game forum posters. He came on early in the week. He said, boys, get on the minus 71.5. They are looking for Tonga players in gyms. They are desperately trying to fill this team. And the line moved, I think, to 79.5. On the morning, even guys were taking 7-1 minus 99.5 on our forum. Unfortunately, I didn't get involved. But, I mean, they won, I think it was 102-0 or whatever it was. And now minus 44.5 against Fiji. Have you had a look at this? Fiji side can only be a bit better than Tonga, but I believe they're also missing a couple of key players.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that result. I didn't actually watch the game. I watched the highlights, but jeepers, Tonga spent more time under the poles than a stripper, man. It was ridiculous. 102. A mate of mine said to me that he saw plus 80.5 and he actually thought it was an error. So I didn't get involved and I didn't watch the game. And yeah, when I saw that, it was insane. And when I watched the game, or obviously the highlights, and they looked impressive. But that Tonga team, I think Fiji will be a lot stronger than that Tonga team, and they've got a couple of game breakers like Nandola and Vola and Navani Botia. So yeah, I'm kind of torn here. I like the minus, I definitely do. I'm quite keen again to look at the overs line here. I think New Zealand's minus will come in because I just had a look at their bench, and if you compare it to Fiji, we talk about all the time, last 20 minutes with New Zealand sides are where they really hit their strides. And I just think when that bench comes on and there's tired legs, you've got guys like Will Jordan and Damian McKenzie busting the game open wide. I'll be on the minus here, and I will wait for a points line, but I'm quite... Yeah, if I had to give you a price on it, I'd say 8 to 10 on the minus is that's sort of, I'm 80% confident on it.
Right. Both Ridgeway just coming in there on Facebook, and God said the highlights of the Tonga game were 40 minutes long, and I was actually thinking exactly the same thing when you watch the highlights. So I'll never forget on Supersport catch-up a few years ago when the Rebels and the Sharks drew 9-all, and I went on to the catch-up and it said there was a 7-minute highlight package. I said, how the hell do you get 7 minutes out of that game? But quite the opposite with Tonga, New Zealand, with tries just raining in from everywhere. Gav, anything from you there?
Yes. So you'll remember that 1999 game, and I know that you guys always chat to me about, or always make a comment about my memory. But 1999, so South Africa playing Italy, the handicap 72, and South Africa come out and they absolutely blitzed them 14-0 at halftime, and the handicap's like, I don't know, 75. I mean, they moved it 3 points off the back of 40-0 in the first half. South Africa won 101-0. Now, New Zealand I think they were winning 43, I think it was 43-0 at halftime. They barely made it to 100. They were very lucky. In fact, after scoring 3 tries in the first 8 minutes, they were on target to beat 160. I don't know. I think maybe the rust, they need to get rid of the rust. I'm still a minus punter here, but I'm not as confident as I was last week. And I know I just saw a comment now saying that the handicaps with Stigman going 46.5 here. I think New Zealand can win this game by 60, 65. They probably get it ready, get it working. They shouldn't be as rusty as they were last week. And I know people tell me they're not rusty because they scored 102-0, but they were rusty. I think they butchered about 7 tries where they dropped the ball and did stupid things on the way to the try line. They honestly should have won that game by 140. So I'm going to tell you minus anything under 60 here is value. And I wouldn't touch this plus unless it was seriously in the close to plus 70. But New Zealand, Fiji are going to have exactly the same problem as Tonga. Yes, maybe they're not phoning primary school kids to come and play with them. I don't know. But those guys, I mean, did you see them? Never mind the highlights package being whatever minutes. Those guys looked like they were hoping that the game was going to end and they could get some hot lunch. They just weren't interested in playing. I mean, they were missing tackles all over. In fact, I think their stat of missed tackles was higher than tackles. I don't know if that's even possible in the game of rugby, but it was very close if it wasn't over. So I'm saying minus all the way here. Don't hold back. Stick it on.
I also think that, like, just looking at that minus, I don't see Fiji scoring more than, say, 10 to 14 points. I think New Zealand will start well. I think if they get a peanut within the first 10 minutes, they'll maybe take poles, but they're naturally an attacking side, so they'll look to score tries. If they score more than 2 tries, I'll be very surprised. So let's assume they convert. Then you just do the maths on that and what New Zealand need to score against a side like that. They can do it in a heartbeat. So that's also kind of why I'm a minus punter here.
In fact, that's where I'm expecting the New Zealand points line to be. I don't think there's anything out yet. I would expect the New Zealand's points line about 54.5 and Fiji about 10.5, 11.5, somewhere around there.
Going back to what both of you are saying here, so never mind 14. Let's give them 20 points here. Let's say they get a couple of penalties and 2 converted tries, maximum 20 points. New Zealand are still going to score 10 tries, which is 7. Well, I say 70. Maybe 11 tries. I still think they beat Handicap comfortably. I say they beat this Handicap by 2 tries. They're going to be more clinical than they were last week. They're going to look at that 102. They're going to watch their own highlights and go, hang on a second, we were 19-0 up after 8 minutes. How did we only win by 102? They're going to hit each other over the head and say, no ways we do this again. Get in there and do it properly.
Okay, so firm on the. I don't disagree with you guys there. I also like New Zealand on the minus. Let's move on to the next game, and Oracle, we'll start with you here. Wales minus 6.5 against Argentina. While you're talking, I'm going to go look on the Good for the Game forum. I think Southpaw posted something on this game, but you go ahead.
Yeah, so last week Wales played that Canadian team, and I was hoping to take this jacket off earlier. I see I've got a Canadian thing on here. My brother was he was involved in the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver at the time. He brought me this jacket, and I'm dying of heat because the door's closed and it's not as cold as it was earlier. So I'm going to take it off. And even though I'm wearing that little maple leaf thing, doesn't mean I'm a Canadian fan. I was on the minus against them last week. They were absolute rubbish. But I got to tell you, don't be too scared to go against Wales here. It looks like they smashed Canada, but Canada are rubbish. They're super rubbish, triple digit, double, quadruple, whatever rubbish. They're rubbish. So we absolutely cannot read anything into Wales' win last week. They're playing Argentina. This is I'm not going to say a level versus level game. And the handicap's right. set right at 6 or 7 points. But Argentina, geez, I do have a bit of a bias for the Southern Hemisphere here. And half of Wales, and it goes back to the same as the Sharks team and all of these guys losing their main players. I'm going to tell you, back Argentina on the board here. It's probably the right thing to do. You're probably going to get something like 2-1, 18-10, maybe 22-10 if you look around. I think it's a little bit of value, but I would not stick more than a unit on this. This is a small bet, bit of fun. And yeah, that's it. I would go for Argentina on the board. I wouldn't touch Wales here. I can't read anything into that mauling last week. We didn't see it on TV. Well, I didn't see it on TV. I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was on. But that scoreline was exactly what I expected. I called the minus there, as I did the plus against the American plus against England. For me, I can't read anything into that Wales team, and the value must be with Argentina.
Right. Just I see Steve Reed posted on the wrong forum. Thank goodness he didn't post any nudes or something in our live chat there. I'm quite relieved about that. Mike, what do you think of this one? The 6.5?
So it's kind of a difficult game for us to look at because it's hard to judge Wales with the players they're missing, and we haven't seen really anything of Argentina. So they haven't released the side as well. I've looked all over for their team sheets. I don't know if you've seen it, if there's a site that's got it, but I haven't seen a team sheet released. So I mean, I'm never comfortable having a bet on anything if I can't see what the team is. So I'm probably going to stay away from this game. I might have a look at an unders here, because I think it's going to be quite a cagey affair, and I think the pack will fight it out. I don't see a lot of tries being scored here. I don't think it's going to be a thriller. But to me, right now, I can't really give you a comment if I can't see the Argentinian side.
I want to see the teams.
I think the Wales side is solid though. If I look at their pack, they've got a lot of experienced players in that pack that are solid, and then that Callum Sheedy, he's had a good season in the Prem, so that 10. So he's obviously taken the role for bigger. I like him as a 10, so they're solid, but yeah, I'm not going to make a comment on the bets if I can't see the Argentinian side.
The betting Stig I see is saying a minus 10.5. He was happy to take up front. He's happy with the minus 6.5. But there's quite a bit of guys are a little bit split here. I see Brendan Vessels, the conductor, is going for Los Pumas there. And we'll bring you in there now, Gav. You said you had something else to add on this one.
Yeah, so he just said that last week they couldn't hold on to ball. They were playing a Romanian, 7th team. It was ridiculous. They were stuffing around. I mean, I didn't see the game, but I look at the results, and straight away that tells me do not read anything into this. They beat the Romanians 24-17. If Romania scores 17 points against any Tier 1 team, they were not playing properly. The other team, not Romania. So I would read nothing into that. Some results don't mean anything, and that result means absolutely nothing to me. I'd scratch it just like a horse. You see a horse run badly, it gets boxed in, whatever, just scratch it out. Look at the rest of the form. Don't take anything into account there. I wouldn't even look at that Romanian game if that's what you're basing your stuff on. Honestly, meant nothing.
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned horses, because I just want to mention last week, Good for the Game preview, we spoke to Jason Derekant and Alan Moskrop, Southpaw, on the Good for the Game forum. Comedy dung, what a brilliant win. And I followed Southpaw on that, got my bet on about 5 minutes before time. I did already shorten from 12-1 to 10-1, but a nice win for me there on the July. And well done to Southpaw, the feature race specialist. Let's move on to the next game now. England against Canada. And Mike, we got a big handicap here. minus 53.5 for English.
I'm on the minus here. I think England were a bit rusty against a good American side. When I say England were rusty, I mean let's be fair. There's a lot of new faces in there that are learning to play with each other, like a Harry Randall and a Marcus Smith. That combination still learning. I thought they've made a couple of good changes. Alex Dombrand's coming in. He's getting his debut. I think he's been brilliant in the Premiership. He's a good one for an anytime try scorer. He's always running a good support line off the shoulder. But I just think that Canadian team is Bush, and I think the bottom line is, I think if Marcus Smith gets good ball, that scoreline can get embarrassing.
Could be looking at a big one there. Gav, I think you're going to agree with this one, eh? I mean, you proposed Canada last week. England here, it's a bigger handicap, but we haven't reached your 85-point limit yet.
Okay, so let's ask the question here. If England played Wales right now, who wins the game? And by how many? Question to both of you. This England team that played last week against America, the Wales team that beat Canada, who wins the game and by how many? I'm saying England wins it by 20.
Yeah, I was going to go England by 15, come in right in the middle of you guys there.
Right, so now you've got a problem where is exactly what we were saying earlier about the Sharks. Sharks are going to Ellis Park. Yes, they're in Ellis Park, whatever. They're going again for another game. They battered, they bruised. You know, XO asking why they're playing again. But I'm going to say the same thing. Wales smashed this Canadian team. Now they're going to go and play England, who, in my opinion, are better. They're not 100%. If they were 100% last week, they're sitting at 0.68, maybe 0.72 on the chart of up to 1. I say this minus is also easy. It's a time bet though, and yes, you're right. It is under my 85 limit. 80, I like to call it 84 actually, but 85. Okay, I'll deal with it. Between 80 and 85, I'm a decision maker. But you're right. It's the early 80s. I just think this minus is a little bit too low, and I would take the minus here quite comfortably and quite happily.
Right, so we got both dads on the minus. I'm not going to argue with them there.
Sorry, one more thing, Brent. Sorry, one more thing. The Canadians scored 2 tries last week. I think they ended on 14. I'm of the opinion they won't even score 1. So it's something to 0 here or something to 3, maybe something to 6. That's it. Over. Right. They won't score a try.
A good hammering coming for the Canadians. Well, Gav, I'll stay with you as we talk to Ireland. I must say, I had an interesting conversation with someone underneath the video last week. They weren't too happy. I think you called Ireland a B-side against Japan. But in the end, look, the handicap arrived, but we had a good chat about that. But Ireland now are starting big favourites against the USA, minus 26.5.
Okay, so last week I called the Irish basically rubbish compared to what they would have been. But in all fairness, that's probably accurate because I think most of the Irish, if they had to start a 15 Ireland today, how many of them are in the British and Irish Lions team? I've got to say at least 10 of them. I don't know. I could be wrong, but a starting 15 is completely diluted by this British and Irish Lions team. Japan played well. In fact, they led for most of the game. In fact, you phoned me. I was opening a beer here in the kitchen, and the Japanese were in front. And they ended up losing by 8 or 9 or whatever it was. The handicap came in. But my mistake is I put too much on the board. And yes, I had a plus bet as well. So I didn't lose on the game, but I didn't win either. I felt like pretty irritated. But I'm going to tell you 26 is too much for this game. Again, let's ask the question. USA played Japan tomorrow in England. Are Japan honestly winning this game by 15 points? Because that's what the handicaps are telling us. I don't think so. I say it's a lot closer than that. I'm on the plus here.
Right, Ireland, betting sticks at Ireland by 21, and Johan coming in and he says USA plus. Ireland don't often put teams away, and I think that's a good point as well.
They don't.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this one, Mike?
So I agree on the fact that Ireland don't put teams away necessarily. It's not what they're notoriously known for. I thought England were negligent against the States last weekend, and I think they walked into that game going, we're going to bun these oaks. We can toss the ball around. We don't have to stick to our structures and our plans. And it actually backfired a lot on them. I think there was a lot of inexperience as well. So if I look at this, and I was on the plus for Japan, and that's a lot for me because I'm an Irish fan. So I was on that plus. Unfortunately, it came home. But I thought if the Japanese team just showed a bit more discipline in their own half, they'd probably win that game. Something's telling me that this Irish game is going to be different. I feel like Ireland are going to play an absolutely structurally sound game where they stick to their strengths. And for some reason, I'm not a comfortable minus punter, but I'm going to look for an Irish total points line. And if that's right, I'll get on it. I'm not convinced on the minus, but I just feel like Ireland will stick to their strengths because their side's diluted. They'll stick to their strengths, like getting McCluskey to to get them over the advantage line initially. He's a very strong carrier. I think they're going to look to more and work with set piece like they always do. Because, I mean, if you look at Ireland, they're very well coached always. That's my take on it. So I think the USA are going to battle to break them down because Ireland are one of the best defensive sides in the world most of the time. So my take is I'm going to look for an Irish total points to go on. I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on the minus or the plus. And I think USA are going to battle to break Ireland down.
The Irish fan that I spoke with last week in the comments did say they thought the Japanese game was going to be high scoring, and they were right about that. Points absolutely flowed there, and it'll be interesting to see what the line is on this one. Guys, we're going to move on to the best bets now.
Sorry,
yes, Gav?
I just want to say one thing here, and before these guys get stuck into minuses here, and Gunchi makes a good point that they'll be disciplined and they're well coached, and I agree. I'm not disagreeing at all. But what worries me is I'm chuckling because we talk about points all the time, and none of us saw this. Japan scored 31 points against Ireland last week. Yes, Ireland won the game by 39 or whatever it was. And my gosh, USA scored 29 points against England. Now, that's got to be concerning for any minus punter in any game, tier 1 versus tier 2, minus all those British and Irish lines. I'm just saying the holes are there. And if these guys have done their video analysis and they've got a proper guy doing their stuff for them, wow, who knows what can happen. I mean, 31 and 29. In fact, if you had been offered a spread, Japan and USA together to get 60 points in those two games, I would have laughed at that. They would have gone under with their houses, their grannies' money. They would have gone under with everything. And it was 60 points. That's crazy. You just got to look at that stat. That's all I'm saying. Be scared.
Yeah. No, I think Brent, also just for the punters there, I think look out for that unders line. Have you got an unders line there, Brent? I haven't actually had a look, but I haven't
seen anything yet. While we're going through the best bets, I'll look, and if anyone's in the live chat seen anything, they could let us know.
Yeah, but I think the unders line will be good.
Player bets are normally out early.
Yeah.
I'll have a look. But I don't know. I don't think we've got anything out yet.
Okay.
Yeah, no points line there from what I can see there. But you reckon unders would be the play?
I think, well, look, it's obviously dependent on the line, but I feel like it is going to be tighter. But I think the bookies, funny enough, I know it might look like an obvious plus, but I think the bookies are going to get that almost on the line. It's going to be one of those where it's like 1 or 2 points away from the handicap there.
Right, let's just see. I see Shane said he's going to go and have a look at that. Right, let's move on to the best bets, though, gents. So I didn't know. I thought, there's not that much rugby to chat about. I wonder if we'll be over in half an hour. But in the end, there was plenty, and I'm getting quite excited for some of the betting opportunities. If you haven't subscribed to the Good for the Game weekly newsletter that goes out normally Friday morning or afternoon, there's a link down below in the description box. You can do that because I normally use the show to sort of galvanize my best bets. Last week, I did come up with my own, though. The Lions over 6.5 tries against the British Lions against the Lions. So at least I'm on a winning roll of 1 at the moment. But let's get into the best bets. And Gavin, we'll start with you.
It's actually hard, Brent. This weekend is very, very hard. This Pumas plus looks good, or Pumas to win looks good. New Zealand minus looks good. Argentina plus looks good. England minus looks good. USA plus. I'm going to tell you, I've got no idea. I'm not even joking. I actually have absolutely no idea. And is
it a weekend to take a multiple? Take 5 of them and bomb a nice bet on and enjoy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, there's nothing that stands out that absolutely, you should climb onto. The New Zealand minus probably, if I'm forced to make a decision, I'm going to go New Zealand minus here. I'm not a big minus punter. I got that wrong. Obviously, last week it wasn't great. I got a couple of results wrong. But I did get the right ones right, and I'm happy. It wasn't too bad for me. It was a profitable weekend for me. And I just want to go back to your horse racing. Comedy Ding, if you'd asked me, I would have told you that horse can start in race 3. It wasn't going to win race 7. I had no idea about that. It was amazing. But yesterday, I managed to find a 25 to 1 shot in race 1 and a 20 to 1 shot in race 7. So it was a great day for me. So yeah, it's very hard finding a July winner. It's a lot easier finding a 20 to 1 shot in normal midweek racing. I don't know. New Zealand minus, for lack of a better call. I haven't taken any bets yet, so that's another thing. We talk on Thursday night. Some of us have had bets, some of us haven't. I'm not really a Thursday punter or Wednesday punter. I often just take my bets on Friday or even on Saturday. I wait a lot of the time to see where the prices will move. I don't mind taking a little bit less value if I'm happy with what I see. So yeah, I'll probably only end up actually taking a bet on Saturday. I know the Pumas game's tomorrow. I'll probably have a bet tomorrow afternoon on that.
Right, well, I'll give you my one. It won't be available, I don't think, tomorrow morning, which is why I'm going to give it to you now. There's still 27 to 20 available on the Pumas to beat the Free State at Bet Exchange. I think that's a cracking bet. So that would be my one, but let's hear what Mike's got to say. Mike, what are your best bets? Sorry, Gav?
So the Cowboys of our industry. I should work there.
Yes. Right, Mike, what are your best bets?
So I just want to raise a point here. I can't believe we haven't discussed the thriller for the weekend, which is Samoa Tonga. Come on. I mean, I know a lot of guys are wanting to have a punt.
I didn't see it in the betting. No, well, let's discuss it.
100%.
I didn't see it.
I'm going to tell you before you even talk, Mike. I'm going to tell you the handicap would probably be about 16.5, and I'm going to tell you to get on the minus there as well. Those Samoans, really, that was one of the bets I took last week. I took minus Maori against Samoa, and watching flash score was an absolute nightmare. It sat on 20. I think they were leading by 24 with honestly half an hour. We saw them leading by 24, and the Samoans scored right then. So I'm going to say Samoa beat this Tongan. If it's the same Tongan team or even a couple more primary school kids playing, I say Samoa absolutely smash them.
You see betting there, Mark? Because I actually didn't see it listed on any of the bookies that I looked at. That's why I didn't bring it up.
Let me just have a look here. There may be something on. No, I haven't actually seen a price, but also they haven't even released the Tongan side yet. So that just shows you. I mean,
there we go. Betting stick says we got minus 16.5 out there.
Minus 16.5. Yeah, then minus Samoa. I mean, there's your best bet to the weekend. Samoa, Tonga, thriller in Manila.
Yeah, but Mark, I tell you, you're saying they don't know who's playing for Tonga. I honestly believe they don't know, because half those oaks that played last week have got jobs to go back to. They're probably going to find another 5 guys to come and play. I mean, this is
in hospital.
I mean, like I know we spoke about it last week with that Uruguay game in East London in 2005. Sorry. It's another joke like that. What do you rather, I don't know, play somebody else? If they can't put a team together, do not play them. This is a joke. It's double-digit minus against Tonga. It shouldn't happen.
It's strange that they've obviously not the strongest side in the world, but from time to time, I mean, in World Cups, they've done all right. They've held themselves. They've held themselves to a bit of respect on the field, and now, I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I can't comment too much, but they were clearly nowhere. And New Zealand don't do them any favors either. They steal all their players. So, and if I look at quite an interesting story, that one, I'm sure a couple of you guys saw it in the media. Sorry, I'm digressing here, but with Fiki Toa,
digressing. So go ahead.
Fiki Toa ended up in that Tonga 7 side for the Olympics. I don't know if you guys saw that. So due to a rule code there, he managed to switch over, because usually you should be country tied. But I forget the rule now. It's obviously my porridge brain from last night. But basically, there was a rule that allowed him to play for the Tongan 7 side in the Olympics, which I thought was quite cool. So, well, going on to the best bets. Our best bet of the weekend has to be for me is the England minus. I think you can fire everything you've got there. Sorry, I'm just moving here. My laptop's dying. Well, the England minus for me is going to be a massive bet. I'm gonna put bombs on that one, and then I think for the New Zealand and the England game, a few anytime try scorers. So I think I think Marcus Smith, anytime try scorer for England, that's a certainty. I think Will Jordan, even off the bench, you'll probably get a bit of good value from a bookie because he's only probably going to play for 20 minutes. So I think jump on that.
On Gunchy's house here with a Formula One mirror and all sorts of stuff going on there. Nice one.
I'm not responsible for interior decor decisions in this house. Trust me.
I am just behind me.
I see a tailor-made there. Yeah, and I think you can pick about half of that New Zealand team. Obviously, your outside backs are an obvious choice, but I mean, if you look in the forward pack, I think Dane Cole's on the bench. I forget who's playing hooker. I think it's Cody Taylor. I'm not too sure, but they're gonna score a few driving mauls. You can bet your bottom dollar that every single outside back is probably going to score. Rico Ioane at 13, he'll score. So I reckon if you had to choose about 8 players in that New Zealand side, you've got a good chance of at least 6 to 7 of them coming in. You might miss out one.
Right, so plenty to look forward to from a betting perspective. Well, let me first of all start by thanking my guests, and Mark, start with you. Great having you back on the show. Some excellent insights. I don't know if it's about just me, but you look like you've actually cured your hangover during the show as well. You're looking more even awake than when you first came on. So it's going to be a cracking weekend. And give us a score in the Euro 2020 final.
Well, it's gonna be a draw in regulation time. It'll be 0-0, 1-1 at best. You won't have more goals in that, and then they'll go to extra time, and there'll be penalties, and England will win.
Wow, England on penalties. That penalty shootout between Italy and Spain the other night was something. Hey, Gav, I mean, we had a little even 500 on it, and I ended up going for Italy. But I mean, Italy missed, Spain missed. I mean, there was some shocking penalties taken there. What's going to happen in the Euro?
Yeah, so I told you on the when I WhatsApped you that night, I said that guy shot the ball over straight away. They call him Danny Elmo or whatever. I said he's Danny Alto, and I know I'm very good with Portuguese, and Alto means high, and I'm assuming it's the same in Spanish. But that was high, and when he took his penalty, I said to my kid, "This is going over the top," and that's exactly what happened. So the final will be Italy. It'll be 2-1. It'll be 1-1 until about 87 minutes. And the Italians will score a very late one, not in injury time, but before the 90, and it'll be 2-1. And the cup was never coming home; it was never home in the first place. Italy will win it, and that's that. I'm not a soccer punter; I'm a bit of a mug, so that's what I'm calling.
I think for the sake of England's public mental health, they better win that final. Otherwise, there's going to be there may be violent protests.
And for the sake of the rest of the world's mental health, Italy better win the final, I guess. As Shane says, they say save the world, Italy. No, but looking forward to that. Haven't really got my head around it, but I think the 90-minute draw, anything over 2-1 is certainly a bit of value there in that game. Guys, just remember, I'll do Tour de France previews on each stage. It's been a bit of a tough tour so far, but I did.
I've got something to say on the Tour de France. Maybe you can help me here, Brent. So first of all, I didn't even realize it was on. So bad for me, whatever. I normally know all about it, and I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't well marketed. But anyway, the last couple of days I've gone on, and one of the things I always look forward to is the podium, the presentation. Those hot chicks standing either side, sporting nice-looking dresses. And today I'm going on, and I'm seeing some oak in a red jacket and another oak in a green jacket, and I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? Now, I understand that they're trying to make it equal and all of that shit, but sorry, I'm swearing, but I'm actually very frustrated. And I said to my wife, like, is that oak appealing to you? And she just looked at me. She didn't even know what I was talking about. 95% of the people watching the Tour de France presentation are men. What the hell are you sticking an oak in a red jacket and a green jacket? You're an idiot because you almost lost me today. That's how bad it was. So I've moaned at Supersport before. I'm moaning at them again. Rather have 2 presentations. Have one for oaks who want to see. Have another one for chicks. No, have 2 presentations. I'm not watching the one. That's all I'm saying.
Excellent, Gavin. I know Brendan O'Connell used to watch for the Podium Girls as well. Anyways, gents, we're going to call it a night there. Thanks to all the guys in the live chat. Always great to have your contributions. And Gavin, thanks a lot. Mike, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, gents.
Happy punting.